Hello and welcome everybody to our YouTube series on free agency. Each episode will look into the dealings within a single division, and if you like our content, please hit the like and subscribe button. It is free after all. And without further ado, we are going to head into the division of questions. First of many episodes we have here for you over the off season, and to begin with, we will be talking about the AFC, and first of the divisions for us is the AFC East. A team that we expected, we have teams that we expect to challenge again next year. We have teams that are in complete rebuilds, and all of the guys here, Peter, Will, we've got a lot to talk about, so let's just get down to business, as the song goes. And so, first of all, the New England Patriots. And they do not have a quarterback anymore in the name of Mac Jones because he's been dealt away. So they have signed Jacoby Brissett. Now, do you expect Jacoby to be the guy, or do we expect them to draft a quarterback?
He's not going to be the long-term answer there. I think this is more like just a seat warmer. It's just someone that you can put out that's going to be serviceable, not going to sort of allow the team to completely collapse. But I think it depends what they're doing, So I think right now with their new head coach, they're kind of like in a rebuild. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still a New England Patriot way.
Kind of a complete rebuild as far as
I think it's like a complete rebuild, but there are some parts of the Patriot way that are still in that organization. But the thing is, no doubt, the new head coach is going to try and put his own stamp on things, and I'm expecting him to sort of change things around. Like, the Patriots have always been a case of letting talent walk out early rather than keeping it on board, and I think that's going to change. You can't win in this league without talent, and I think one thing they can do off the bat is address the QB situation. This is one of the few drafts where I actually think you've got your top end guy. I'm going to say guy because after that there's a drop off, let's be honest. But you've got a lot of good serviceable guys middle of the road that are a lot better than what you have right now that you can plug and play straight away.
And I think better than what they have in Jacoby Brissett. Now, if we look at the other acquisitions in the offseason that they've had, in the running back room, they've added Antonio Gibson. So he'll be a good yin and yang compared to Ramondre because he's a pass catching back. He's a different kind of player. I think a very good wide receiver acquisition that they've had is KJ Osborne. We saw glimpses of what he can do last season. And for once, they actually have somebody I think that's capable, like in that wide receiver room, because there's been a dearth there. There hasn't been what they need. So they've made small improvements, but whether or not it's going to be enough is a whole different kettle of fish, right?
Yeah, we've seen with the Houston Texans that if you hit on the right quarterback, it can flip your team straight away. And I think we talked about this in the pregame show. If they want that instant turnaround, and I'm pretty sure Robert Kraft, that's what he's looking for because he's used to being that team, and I think especially with billionaires, like their egos involved, he wants to get back there real quick. And I think he's shown that determination from getting rid of a Hall of Fame coach in Bill Belichick. Like, that's not something that people should take for granted. I think he wants to get right back up there again, and he knows that change has to happen. So I do think they go get a guy. Hopefully it's the right guy. Because if not, it's going to be another long road again to sort of reset that. And you can't be drafting QBs every year. Look at the Tennessee Titans. Like, that's a prime example of what
it's not a recipe for success, as we know. Yeah. So their biggest, in terms of monetary spend, was re-signing Mike Onwenu, the right tackle, $57 million contract for 3 years. They added a couple of linebackers they lost Mac Wilson to Peter's Arizona Cardinals, but replaced him with Taki from Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean,
thoughts on that, Peter?
The free agent class is not bad. It's your standard sort of like rebuilding team, try and get bodies in. And I think the biggest key for me is that if you look at the class, they resign majority of their guys. And that's a big key because they had a lot of players that were coming to the end of their deals, and being able to resign some of your, like Michael Wenu, keeping Hunter Henry,
Uche as well,
keeping Uche, bringing a couple of guys like that, retaining Carl Duggar, the safety who's a very good football player. So resigning some of their guys set them up for where they can compete. I don't think this is going to be a very fast turnaround, even if they get the right guy in the draft, like we were saying earlier. I don't think they're quite in a position that as the Houston Texans was.
I think it's a step in the right direction for New England, but the thing is, this division is very competitive. So we're going to talk about the other teams now. And the next team on our list is the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins that could not get over the line and actually beat a good team last year, generally. Now, they've made they've had quite a few changes over the off-season break so far. And if we just quickly... So, they lost Christian Wilkins to Las Vegas. They lost Robert Hunt to Carolina Panthers. They brought in Jordan Brooks, the linebacker, for $26 million 3 years. They brought in a center, Aaron Brewer, $21 million 3 years. They kept Andrew Van Ginkel. They brought in Kendall Fuller. They brought in Jonnu Smith, Shaq Barrett on a 1 year deal for $7 million. They lost Sean Elliott, Cedric Wilson. They brought in another vet player in Jordan Poyer and another vet as well in Anthony Walker. Yeah.
I haven't heard his name in a while. Yeah.
I think with Miami, underwhelming free agent class, but then that's also because they've got cap issues. I think they could have retained, like for example, Christian Wilkins is a big loss for them on their defensive line. He was one of their team leaders, one of the locker room guys, one of the on-field stars for the Miami Dolphins. Losing Robert Hunt is also a big deal for them because he was also one of their good interior offensive linemen. So I think Miami is kind of like heading towards what can they do in the draft to replace those guys, because they couldn't do a lot of free agency. And when I'm looking at the class in the whole, I think it's a little bit on the underwhelming side, but they're cap tight, so what can they do?
Yeah, it's certainly the thing. Miami, we know that they needed to improve on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
And bringing in players like Brooks will help that. Retaining Van Ginkel will help that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you lose a guy like Christian Wilkins, it kind of tempers that kind of that happiness in terms of, like, obviously you can't keep everybody, so some people are going to go and some people are going to get a massive bag, because he got $4 million, 4 years, $110 million. We'll talk about the Raiders later on. He got a big bag. He got a big bag, and sometimes they're going to have to get that big bag somewhere else. But how do you think this affects Miami?
I think in the division, like I said, it depends. You got to tie in when we get to the draft, right? And what they do in the draft when we review the draft class, right? But at the moment, it seems that they've taken a step back in the division in terms of Buffalo is still kind of like the favorites when you look at their draft class. Buffalo is still the favorites in the division, and they're still second favorites. I wouldn't say based on their signings they've catch up to Buffalo yet. I wouldn't say that. But then when you look at it, it came down to this decision. Do you pay your quarterback or do you pay a defensive tackle? And we all know who's going to win every time.
Yep.
Well, do you have anything to add on the Dolphins free agency acquisitions?
I mean, well, before you go, quick question: would you have paid Tua or Wilkins? Who do you pay?
Well, I think with Tua, you can. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he is going to have his suitors, but he's a Miami Dolphin. He knows that he's built his brand there, and that's where his future is. So I think he'd be
I'm asking you a
willing.
question. As a GM, who would you pay? If you were the GM that had to make the decision, because remember that's what they had to do essentially. Either we pay Watkins or we pay Tua.
You put me in
The
a hard
thing is,
spot.
they'll be going.
Yeah,
The issue is they'll be going around in this circle if they
they'll be
didn't pay
going
Tua,
around.
right? But don't forget,
Yes, yeah.
you want to get off that quarterback carousel as quickly as you can, right?
Yeah, actually, that's a good
True.
point. If we go back in
That's
time,
true.
pay him early, just get it over and done with now. But you've got to look. Are there any QBs coming up next year that are saying pay up? All the guys got paid this year, gone, right?
Yeah, I mean, okay,
There you
let's
go.
move on.
So I think
I'm trying to put
it's okay.
I'm trying to put all logic against you because you know the whole thing that you have about the running backs. Right? I'm trying to put it against you. Can you recycle QBs every like 4 years?
No, you can't.
No,
Generally, not. You
can't,
need
yeah.
sustained success generally in this league. Flash in the pans don't really work. You can't get the flash every time, right?
especially
You're not
a QB.
you're not gonna win every time.
Yes.
All right, moving on to the New York Jets. Now, would we say the New York Jets have had the best offseason so far in the AFC East?
I'll agree to that in terms of like the signings that they've made.
Now, let me list some of those signings. Wide receiver, Mike Williams. Great receiver to put opposite Garrett Wilson.
Yep.
And then you look at the offensive linemen that they have added. Tyron Smith. Putting him in that team fixes that left side, right?
Yeah, but he's not going to be.
Wait. Let him finish.
Go on.
So you put him in that left side, that fixes, and then you add John Simpson from Baltimore.
Very good guard.
Very good guard. And the one thing that we said was as soon as the injury happened, they were completely doomed to fail because the O-line was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Zach Wilson had no chance because the O-line was terrible.
Mm.
You build that foundation, you keep your quarterback on 2 feet, and then you take it from there. And you give him a bit of time, you know what he's capable of.
Absolutely.
I
Take
agree.
it away before I go. I think we are both going to say the same thing.
Yeah. Tyron Wilson isn't the long-term answer. Like, he's a bit old and he has lost a step. That being said, he is in this era of football, he's one of the best few left tackles. But let's be honest, like, if he was still that guy, like, how old is he?
He's 33.
He's 38.
He's 33. 33. Yeah, he's 33.
So for offensive linemen, that's still relatively young for someone you expect is going to be a hallmark of your
He's still
organization.
going to get another 4 years.
These guys should be playing. These guys,
Okay.
if he's as good as he is, that he should be playing well into his late 30s if he chooses to. So why is he?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, I know.
Depends on the mileage on his legs, right? Some players get a little bit more mileage than others.
He's not going to play every single snap for every single game. You know that.
Well, you're gonna have to because
he's
okay, so he's gonna have to because he's the left. Listen,
he's the left tackle. He's the linchpin. He's the
left
blindside
tackle. You're the
support, right?
linchpin.
Yeah.
You have to be in there for a lot of snaps. Now, here's the thing: you guys are missing something. Their draft class is the best in the division. The biggest key to this draft class, especially for some of
the free agency,
is health.
Yeah,
it's health, right?
Yeah.
Mike Williams, great receiver.
But his health.
How many games does he play a year?
That's the problem. Yeah.
Someone made a joke here. Imagine Touchwood and God forbid this ever happens. First game of the season, Tyron Smith out for 10 games. Mike Williams out for 10 games. That's like that's the risk.
That's the risk. But the thing is, that's the risk with a lot of players that you take, right?
No,
not these guys.
Into history. That's the thing. There's always a risk.
It's 33, and Dallas moved him. They were like, "Look, you're a generational talent at that tackle, one of the best in this era. We're just getting rid of you because you're always nicked." Just like how in the
That's the
NBA
thing.
people have load management. This guy's
Smith
doing
had
load
back
management,
issues, right?
This guy's doing load management in the NFL.
But the Cowboy fans are upset about it because they said even with his back issues that he had, Tyron Smith will give you a solid 10 games a season. He was never gonna play all 17, but for 10 games, he's gonna be there and he's gonna be all pro, top of the line left tackle. So here's the thing. If I mean, what Joe Douglas have done for the Jets, and I hope it does pay off for them, is similar to what Steve Keim did for my Cardinals back in 2015. We had Carson Palmer. We signed all these big superstars and put them together. We did get to the NFC Championship game, so you could say it paid off for the season. So let's just hope that because this is a let's give it a shot move for the Jets. This is not, they're trying to win a division. They're trying to get to a Super Bowl.
Don't forget they've got a limited amount of time with Aaron Rodgers, so they need to make it work.
They want to maximize it.
Signing in Joe Kinlaw at DT is a very good signing as well. It's a very good signing for them. So I would they've done very well in the offseason so far. Let's see what their draft class is like. And then we will revisit them later on in the off-season. Now we will move on to the AFC East champs and the Buffalo Bills.
Sorry, I'm just saying, like, some players are about getting that money. They don't care about knocking on the doors. Kinlaw's like, yeah, give me that check. Forget a chance to actually win this thing.
But to be fair, Kinlaw signed.
But
the 49ers didn't want him back. And only signed a 1-year deal. And also, to be fair, Robert Saleh knows him from the time at the Jets. So I mean, with the 49ers.
The 49ers.
All right.
I think that
So the Bills re-signed. So they agreed with Dion Dawkins to a 3-year, $60 million extension. They added Curtis Samuel as at wide receiver. They lost Gabe Davis to another team, as we know. Re-signed Epinesa. Re-signed Daquan Jones. They re-signed Taylor Rapp. They added in Nicholas Moreau. So it's a bit more evolution rather than revolution. They didn't need to have a revolution there in Buffalo, but would you say that Buffalo have lost more than they've added?
Yeah, they had a good unit there. I think Gabe Davis was a guy that they drafted and was a pretty good number. I mean, sometimes at its best, he was a clear number 2, but then he'd usually underperform and he just wouldn't show up for long stretches of the season. So I can understand that choice there. But yeah, no, it's for me, just like you said, I don't think that they've taken away or lost. I think it's more of like a sideways movement that they've done all this, but I don't see them going anywhere with it. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's weird. Ideally, they want to get.
So they've lost Mitch Morse, the center.
Yeah, they have. So
they've lost Leonard Floyd.
Yes, they have. But
and they've lost Gabe Davis.
Yes, they have. But when I look at the team, they're more of like retooling and sort of like rebuilding certain parts on the fly because they still have Josh Allen. They still have a good core of players around them. Getting Dion Dawkins back was a big move for them, right? It's resigning AJ Epinesa, who's starting to be on the rise. He's not there yet, but he's become a key member of their team. He's made significant plays in certain games in the regular season for them, so that pays off. Getting those 2 D tackles, Austin Josh and Daquan Jones, is a big boost for their defensive line so they can keep that interior pressure going. My biggest concern with them is losing those 2 safeties, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. They were an excellent tandem. I know their play sort of like tailed off towards the end of the season into the playoffs a little bit, and I get that. So it will be interesting to see how they replace them because Mike Edwards and Taylor Rapp are not on the level that Poyer and Hyde were as a tandem. I think they've downgraded in the safety department. And that goes to the general concern this offseason. There was a theme before free agency whereby a whole lot of safeties was being released across the league. And you were wondering what's going on with all these. And these are very, very good safeties as well. So it's like, it's one of them ones where
we expect them to be dipping in the draft, right? So we'll expect them to be dipping.
That's what I expect.
Safety draft.
I would say Curtis Samuel, they signed him to a 3-year, $30 million contract. That means that they expect Curtis Samuel to come in to be a solid wide receiver too. They're expecting it to be better than Gabe Davis was, and that remains to be seen.
Gabe Davis had
they're about the same.
Yeah, but Gabe Davis had this tendency of disappearing in games.
Yep, I agree.
Curtis Samuel disappeared for a season, bro.
Curtis Samuel was more consistent than Gabe Davis.
Yep.
He's more consistent than Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis has a higher ceiling, but Curtis Samuel was more steady. And I think they need that steady production more than anything else. So yeah, it's a reason, but I don't think they've improved enough to whether or not we believe they've improved enough to be the pure title challengers. That leaves we'll see after the draft.
Yeah.
All right, now.